Hey Gearholics out there, it's me Gearholic here, and I'm coming at you guys with a new review. Today's review is going to be over the K-Bar 1110 Stockman blade. So let's start off with a little bit of history. Basically, the Stockman knives, or stockmen, were a group of guys, also known as cowboys or ranch hands. Basically, they ran the ranch. They took care of the cattle. They made sure the cattle were safe. And at times, they also did other things with the cattle, such as neutering. Sometimes they had to kill cattle and eat them. So they needed many different tools available to them. And basically, they used these for just multi-function knives. They were the EDCs of the time period, the everyday carries of the time period. So let's talk about dimensions real quick. The overall length of the Stockman is going to be 3.5 inches with a width of exactly half an inch. So it's a very evenly measured knife. These are handmade in America, which is really nice. So USA, born and proud. And they also don't weigh very much. I think they weigh only 2.5 ounces. So it really doesn't weigh a whole lot, and you're getting 3 blades with all of that. So the Spade Blade, which is located on the very back of the knife, it was used for exactly what you would think it would be used for. Basically, a cattleman or stockman had to sometimes neuter animals because they're working around the ranch, and they needed a really sharp blade that wasn't going to pierce any more skin than it really needed to. And it was also used for skinning game and that kind of thing. So the actual Spade Blade itself kind of has an interesting design to it. Basically, it doesn't have any kind of sharp point, very dull sharp point. But basically, it looks kind of like a pin blade, except it terminates and doesn't have, obviously, a point. So it just terminates right there on the very fine edge that it really is, which is really nice. So if you kept this razor sharp, you would use this for neutering animals and obviously skinning game or whatnot. And that round tip was basically designed to not pierce any of the guts or anything when you're cutting around the animal. So interesting fact to know. So the sheep's foot blade is basically used. Its main purpose is for cutting and slicing. It's predominantly used for minimizing any kind of chances of accidental stabbing. Is basically what a sheep's foot is designed for. It's mostly used for cutting on flat surfaces. So it basically has a flat blade point with a very rounded back end that basically comes and terminates into what is considered a false point. It's really great because it basically minimizes cutting yourself. Because it doesn't have a real point to actually come into, it's basically a very safe blade to use, especially for skinning game or if you had to use it in an emergency situation for cutting a seatbelt. It's actually really safe, which is why a lot of emergency blades are sheep foot shaped. So that's kind of a cool thing to know. So that's a sheep's foot. The clip point design on the blade is a general purpose knife used for almost anything. It's really easily controlled because of its nature, and it's got a really nice belly here for actually skinning or cutting, whittling. Stabbing would be kind of, I guess, one of its more useful functions because of its nice point here. I will say, though, that the clip point design isn't super tough because it kind of comes down to a real thin edge. So you do run the risk of actually snapping that off if you decide to use it for poking things. You have to be really careful because these kind of tips will break off. And then you'll be left with kind of a flathead screwdriver knife, which is no fun. So that's one of those cool things about the clip point design that's in this blade. I think it has a real sense of nostalgia behind it, and I think that everybody should really kind of understand that. And if you're really interested more in these kind of blades, I would highly recommend a really good book. This is the official price guide to collector's knives, or collector knives. It's the 13th edition, and it's by a really cool guy named C. Houston Price. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but this is the 2000 edition, or the 13th edition. I'm not sure if there's any more editions out there that are up to date past 2000, but if you can find this kind of book, or this style book, or even this book in general, it's got a lot of really great guides and things in it that anybody could use. It's got really great illustrations in it, like how to identify knife blade types, and different patterns of bolsters, knife prices and ranges and rarity, which is really kind of nice. And it lists them all really excellently. And it's got a lot of great commentary as well as good history on it. Would highly recommend going and getting a copy of this if you can find one. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. As I always say, be safe out there and try not to cut yourselves. Gearholic, and I'm signing out.